Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, Spotify, and more. Because I am determined to splatter more hope and happiness on you to infinity and beyond. Thank you for spending your mornings with me wherever you are going. I am hoping that you are in a good mood because it's the beginning of the day. And it's only going to get better depending on what you choose to focus on. So you know me, I am your hashtag positively opinionated, hashtag relentlessly inspiring host and producer of this show, where I like to bring you things that make you smile instead of make you shake your head and throw your hands up and say, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. So let's see how I do today. It is November the 22nd. And to celebrate the deliciousness of life, I'm actually going to go backwards for a second because yesterday, Sunday, was National Gingerbread Cookie Day. So we missed it because I wasn't on the air on the weekend. But today you have permission to go and snack on a gingerbread cookie. And while you're at it, it is also National Cranberry Relish Day. I know who comes up with this stuff, but I'm thanking nationalday.com for their consistent delighting of little known facts that I get to share with you. And today I have a plethora of Dr. Marissa reporting live on location clips to celebrate things that are in the solution to those things that you may see the headlines, but you don't see a lot of solutions. You see the problem. It is brought to your attention over and over again, whether it was the gun that accidentally went off in the airport, to a natural disaster, to somebody doing somebody's harm, and obviously the Rittenhouse verdict. So I'm not talking about any of those things today because they've been talked about enough. And depending on where you are, you're probably trying to convince other people to think the way that you want them to think. And I have realized that my peace of mind is directly correlated to how I can drop the rope. There is no tug of war if I don't pick up that rope. So I'm not going to get into an argument with you, nor do I have necessarily an opinion. I think that there are that saying opinions and, I can't say the word because this is an FCC rule NBC station. But I am going to just say that I continue to hold peace. I continue to hold human kindness, emphasis on kind. I don't believe that we can get to a solution if we're using the same kind of hate that is being given to us. I do absolutely agree that we've got some issues on our hands for us to work on as a nation, as a country, as we continue to do that. Now, the clips I'm going to show you actually highlight the necessity, and my spotlight interview today is going to continue to talk about the solutions to stop AAPI hate. But I got to cover a press conference and got a soundbite from several individuals who are a little concerned about the continued AAPI hate incidences, including Sunni Lee's, and the focus again for the rest of the show is on solution. So without further ado, here are some politicians who are also helping in taking a stand against AAPI hate and encouraging us on what we can do to help.
This is Dr. Marissa reporting live. You know me as the Asian Oprah, and you also know this mug behind me. He's as shy as I am, and he's a wonderful politician. I know that's not an oxymoron, but he's here today at a press conference supporting us, AAPI hate, stopping it. Please introduce yourself and tell me why you're here.
Thank you, good doctor. Miguel Santiago, Assembly Member, Los Angeles, and we're here on a serious topic. We want to stop and prevent AAPI hate. It is not tolerated. It is not okay. Enough is enough. We're seeing a spike in incidences, an increase that was reported by the Los Angeles County Human Rights Commission, and we want to say enough's enough. Stop it. Join the movement. We've got to stop it dead in its tracks.
Thank you. 80%, right?
That's what it was.
Yeah. That's what can Angelenos do who are not Asian?
Well, number one, you got to report it, and that's incredibly important because then we have facts and data to be able to move legislative and policy action. But number two, and they're not in any particular order, is be part of the solution. When you see this happening at a restaurant, when you see somebody making a joke, stop it, because it always begins with a joke. It ends up in discrimination. And then it's usually followed through by some sort of violence. I mean, that's how this thing escalates. So we've got to stop it. And sometimes it's in our own backyards. If a kid is making fun of somebody, you stop it and correct the child so that it doesn't become something serious.
Yeah.
When an adult is doing it, you just say, hey, that's not cool. Let's not do that, you know. And but when you see an escalated event, and we saw some of these in our own backyard, where this young woman was yelled at violently and pushed around in a restaurant, and no one stood up. There was customers there, there was management there was employees there. Not a single person said a thing. That would have been very different if everybody stood up and said, that's enough. Hey, that's not cool. Hey, that's shameful.
Right.
Don't do that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what we're asking the public to do, is to join us.
Perfect. Because what you permit, you promote.
100%. It's disgusting. I mean, what we've seen is disgusting.
Yeah.
Be part of the solution. Take action.
Well, thank you for supporting this. Peace in. You remember this? Peace in, peace out.
Peace out.
World peace through inner peace. You got it.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Steve Kang. I'm a resident of Koreatown, but also representing Koreatown Youth and Community Center, KYCC, so thank you for having me. We are here today basically denouncing all forms of hate. I know earlier this year, the entire nation came together in support of the AAPI community with the unprecedented rise in anti-Asian hate, and that headline has gone away. But despite the headline going away, we are seeing statistics, alarming spike in anti-Asian hate. And just a few weeks ago, we had an elderly Korean American waiting for a bus in Koreatown, and he was punched in his face just because he was Asian American.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So we are asking
Is he
for...
okay?
He is okay, thankfully.
Okay.
But he was traumatized.
Yeah.
And now he's afraid to take the bus, go out in public.
Yeah, that's tough. So what can we do? Like, as Asian Americans, as people who are not Asian American?
I know we've said this multiple times, but data. Many of our Asian American victims are afraid to come forward or even report these hate incidents. And we need these data so that we can ask and urge our elected officials to allocate resources and our authorities to provide protection and other resources as well. So we encourage everybody to help report these incidents, but also the general public, we are asking for allies. So when you see victims of hate, please help us.
Yes.
And also encourage them to report these incidents to the local authorities.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. This is Dr. Marissa. You know me as the Asian Oprah, and I'm here live in downtown LA at a press conference because we still just don't quite have the handle on stopping AAPI hate. And I don't know why, but I was so delighted that one of the main players in this press conference was actually a past guest of mine. I'll call her my Asian sister friend. She's going to introduce herself and tell you why this is so important and why we're here.
Hi, Dr. Marissa. It's nice to see you again. I'm Connie Chung Joe, the CEO of Asian Americans Advancing Justice LA.
Yes, and why this press conference?
We had this press conference because recently Suni Lee, the Asian American who won a gold medal for gymnastics in the Olympics for the United States, shared a story about how she had been called a racial slur and sprayed with pepper spray on her arm when she was out with a group of Asian American girlfriends.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely. You can't have somebody more American
Right.
than an Olympic gold
Right.
medal winner.
Right.
But even someone like her, is not immune to attack.
So what can we do as people in Los Angeles, people around the world, Asians in particular? I guess for me, I'm continuing to talk about this, continuing to put it on the air. What else can we do?
Yeah, well, Dr. Marissa, thank you for doing that, because I think that's part of what we're trying to do today, is we're making a reality check that, unfortunately, hearts and minds don't change as quickly as the headlines do. So even though you're not seeing it every day on the front page of the news, it is still a problem. We still have folks who resent the Asian American community and blame us for the pandemic. So what that means is for everyone else, the vast majority of people who I believe are good, who don't believe that this is okay, and who really condemn anti-Asian hate, the rest of us need to be stepping it up. What we need to do is make sure if we see it and we report on it, that if we experience it, we don't let it just go, that instead we report it to the proper authorities or organizations who can collect the numbers, so that way people know that it's continuing to happen.
Absolutely.
And we need to keep talking about it. The way you keep sharing it on your show, other people need to keep bringing it up, because really addressing racial justice is something that takes a long time, but it's worth doing. It's something we really need.
Absolutely.
And because this is still happening, I'm going to bring back Connie Chung Joe. But before that, when we come back, I wanted to bring you an amazing story. I just love finding companies and organizations that are doing things that are new and creative and helping others at the same time. And that is the Kindness Project with Misha's Kind Foods. When we come back on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You're tuned into Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News radio station, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere, including my YouTube channel. And with a free subscribe there, you'll get an alert that a new show is going to drop every morning, every weekday morning at 8 a.m., as well as access to many different playlists, including Radio for Our Deaf Community series. So if you know anyone who uses American Sign Language, then they can access some really great interviews, including one with Layla Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter, as well as Rico Berry, who is single-handedly responsible for a mass reduction in the killing of dolphins in the Cove in Taiji, Japan, and others. So please do free subscribe there. And as promised, I'm bringing you an on-location report from this fabulous Thanksgiving giveaway with a little twist. Enjoy.
Good morning. This is Dr. Marissa. You know me as the Asian Oprah, reporting live here in downtown LA at an amazing event that I had to cover because you know me, I love to cover what's good about the world, what's good about people, what's good about people helping people. And I have a special guy. I met his mom in the bathroom. He's got siblings here. They're doing something very unique. Now, during Thanksgiving, we all give food away. We're all like helping with that. But there's a little healthy twist to this. So please introduce yourself and tell me why you're here.
My name's Olu Davis. I'm the head of marketing and social impact for Misha's Kind Foods. And we decided last year, this is our second annual, to create plant-based food packages for Thanksgiving for giveaways, because we understood that there's a huge need for options and choices for the community. And in certain communities where there's food deserts, they need to have more options. You know, Feed Our Family is a program that we do 52 weeks in a year. It's not just done during Thanksgiving. And it was created by our CEO, Aaron Bullock, and our other co-founder, Ian Martin, and Jasmine Dickens during COVID.
Wow.
They decided...
He's waiting to put this. Come on in.
Come
go
on
ahead.
in.
Go ahead. I want them to see yeah, exactly. This
So
is all the...
in the middle of COVID, Aaron, Ian, and Jasmine decided that, you know, we want to figure out a way to create impact and help. So we decided to start gathering up farm fresh groceries from the farmers market, because we sell our cheese, our plant-based cheese, in farmers markets. So that's how it was created, those three. And then I came on about a month later, and we figured out a way to kind of scale it over time, to partner with different organizations to provide these groceries to at-risk kids and foster families in the community.
So here's boxes. What's in the box? Let's go inside
Right.
and he's going to tell me
So
what's in the box.
the box is filled with different types of plant-based groceries. You have dressing that has no meat products in the dressing. We do lettuce. There's waters. We have plant-based chicken right here from Daring Food. It's pretty tasty. I had some before.
So my daughters and my niece are going to love this. This is all plant-based. This is a healthy food distribution, not just for Thanksgiving, but I think it's wonderful how you're doing this.
Thank
so,
you.
Because of that, I'm going to give you and your mom, well, let's go back to your mom.
Okay. Mom.
So I had, hey, if I have to wear one, you got to wear one. Honestly, this is the first time I've ever had one of these things on. I didn't even know how to put it on.
It's great on you.
Yeah, thank you. You would say that. But anyways, so I wanted to spend a little time interviewing the strength and the wisdom behind this young man. So I'm going to give you both, because of what you do and because of what you're doing, Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award.
Oh, wow.
And I don't give that very lightly, because I absolutely am sick and tired of people shaking their head about things they don't like, but people who are actually doing something to #be the change. So shit. Thank you for what you're doing. And why don't you tell me the secret to raising good kids? How's that?
You know what? That's the hardest question in the world. However, because they're all different. I gave birth to 6. This is number 3. But so he told me my discipline and being hardcore was what really helped him out. That's what he said. You're too light on the youngest 3. He said you let them get away with murder. They have no. But they're there. There's one right there, and there's another one. Yeah, they're here they work here. I'm volunteering. But you know what? All I can say is, make sure that you have a lot of what is it? Belief in your children. You know, believe in them. Try to be as positive as you can with them. Give them a good work ethic and something to grow on, and they'll be okay. And always be there for them. That's all I can say. And that's it.
Beautiful. Well, it totally makes sense how he turned out the way he did. So, just tell me, we'll do a shameless promotion for your product, because I want people to know that they can not give up. They can give up dairy but still have cheese.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so it's Misha's Kind Foods. We make a dairy-free cheese. We make 8 different types of cheeses, and they're all plant-based. They're a very clean product. You can find it at Erewhon, at Whole Foods. You can buy it on our site, mishakindfoods.com. And the reality is, it was created by 2 gentlemen, Chef Ian Martin, who's an amazing chef, and our CEO, Aaron Bullock. And what's interesting about the partnership is that Ian is a vegan and Aaron is not. And I think their duo and the openness that they bring to the company and our team is really what makes us who we are. And we're very grateful for their leadership and how they empower our team to be able to give back while we're creating amazing cheese. So buy the cheese. You can cook with it. You can cook pasta sauces, pizzas, or use it as an everyday type of ricotta spread. You can buy it again at mishakindfoods.com, Whole Foods, Lassen's, Erewhon, Mother's Market and Kitchen. We're in Northern California. Please support. We're 1% for the planet, so 1% of our profits goes towards our nonprofit, which is Misha's Kindness, which is how we do this program under the Feed Our Family umbrella.
Oh my God.
So thank you.
Wait a minute. Let's get a nice shot of these.
One more. These are the kindness packages.
Kindness packet.
And we can't wait we're going to be handing these out tomorrow morning, Saturday, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. We're at Amp Kitchens. Amp is our partner. That's Jason over there. They support us so much.
Get them over here.
Amp,
this is my tour guide. He got me right to where I needed to go.
Amp is a huge partner. They support us. We do a blood drive every 2 months. Amp has said, you know what? It doesn't matter what's going on. They make the space available for any community event that we help get together and have people get behind. So thank you, Jason and Amp, for what you all do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. He didn't want to come on camera. But so tell me again how many pounds of food. You didn't mention that.
Yeah, so what we did was we wanted to make sure it's Thanksgiving and we provide a meal for Thanksgiving, but it's more than that, right? We are doing 5 pounds of beans, 5 pounds of rice, 5 pounds of macaroni, a whole box of 5 pounds of potatoes. So it really is something that can last beyond that. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we do this program, we feed families every week. So we're providing these groceries every week, not to 200 families at one time every week, roughly 4 to 6 families every week. So you can support us if you have in-kind donations. Go to our social media, Misha's Kind Foods, on Instagram or our website. We can donate through our GoFundMe page, and we're happy to just spread the empowerment and spread the help.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
At the end of every show, I do this. You ready?
Okay.
Peace in.
Peace in.
Peace out.
Peace out.
World peace.
World peace.
Through inner peace.
Through inner peace.
Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you very much for what you do. Thank you to my videographer who's getting paid with a smile, permanent smile, capturing my first time with the hairnet on.
It's amazing. You may have a new look now.
Don't hold your breath.
Your fans are going to want to see you.
Thank you.
And aren't they delightful? I just fell in love with their whole family, especially when I bumped into the mom in the bathroom. She said, that was my son you're interviewing. And I'm going to encourage you to go out and look for Misha's Kind Foods. I was so delighted and gifted all 8 kinds of their cheese. You know, how could you not love them when they have 8? You know that 8 is a lucky number in Chinese. It's a homonym for good fortune, in case you are here listening to me for the first time. But I'm told that this flavor is one of the best, black truffle. And this one is sari. And I saw cheddar. I saw so many different kinds. Go to mishakindfoods.com. That's MISHAS. kindfoods.com. Support them. Their program for donations is not just at Thanksgiving, where they give out wonderful plant-based foods. Okay? And when we come back is with Connie Chung Joe. I interviewed her not too long ago, but it is well worth the spotlight, especially with what happened to Suni Lee. She is the Chief Executive Officer at the Asian Americans Advancing Justice Los Angeles. When we come back on Take My Advice, I'm not using it. Get balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports Channel, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, iTunes, and more, because this is a show about hope and happiness and balancing out all the bad news out there with some good news and solution. So you don't have to listen to this news and say, what's wrong with people? I want you to think about what's right with people and focus on the solution. So here's Connie Chung Joe. Enjoy.
Connie Chung Joe is the Chief Executive Officer of Asian Americans Advancing Justice, LA, the nation's largest legal and civil rights organization for Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. Prior to joining Advancing Justice LA in August 2020, Connie served as the Executive Director of the Korean American Family Services for 11 years. Under Connie's leadership, KFAM nearly quadrupled its budget and staff with culturally and linguistically responsive services to immigrant families, particularly those struggling with mental health, domestic family violence, and acculturation. We're going to talk about that, stresses. Prior to joining KFAM, Connie was a public interest lawyer for 7 years. Please welcome back to my show, Connie Chung. I really wanted us to up-level what we're already talking about. In fact, you're my representative for graduate school. So I did a series on It's Not Black and White, or Is It? After George Floyd's murder with Akuyo Graham, who's a beautiful actress and activist. And we did a special series on that. And then in response to Asian American hate crime and Stop AAPI Hate, I brought you on a panel with other community leaders. I also had Shay's son. And what's come up is this whole people of color helping people of color. So I thought it was important enough to highlight, because I'm also hearing the other side. And it's interesting, yesterday I attended, one of my clients did a fireside chat with Dion, who is the TV anchor up in Northern California, who covers almost all of the Asian hate crime. And she, we had questions in the chat, and some of them were saying, what about, why is it that Black Americans seem to be the perpetrators of a lot of the Asian American crime? And she didn't put that question up because it wasn't the time or place to address it. But I know it's one of those, let's put the moose on the table, which is my Canadian version of talking about the elephant in the room. So when I mentioned that to you, I loved your response. And so that's why I brought you on, is let's talk about this. Why is it that there's a perception that people of color don't help people of color and hurt other people of color? And is it true that, I just got a call to go on location for another event, a memorial event from what they say may have started the Watts riots, which was the Korean store owner shooting an African-American teenager. So that's the end of my ramble. Please respond and just help me understand.
Sure. Well, so I would first like to dispel that misperception that what we're seeing today with the surge in anti-Asian hate is really a problem of Black perpetrators attacking Asian victims. I do think that has been the perception, and that's sort of the way, I have to say, it gets spun by the media or social media. But Stop AAPI Hate, which is the leading aggregator of data at this time around Asian violence, has said that only 10% of the perpetrators of the close to 4,000 reported cases they've received involve somebody who's Black or brown. So 10% is actually a very small minority. But I do think that is this misperception that people think, oh, it's a Black problem and an Asian problem. And I would say, Dr. Marissa, that this is not the first time we've seen that. I think today is actually April 29th, which is the 29th anniversary of the LA riots.
Yeah.
And in the Korean community, we actually call it Saigu, and Sa means 4, Igu means 29. So it's actually for that date that we commemorate it. Mm-hmm. But that time as well, you might recall that the media really played it up, that this was a Black Korean problem. I agree. There has definitely been some racial tensions in the past, and that those issues are there. But I do feel that it makes for a nice, sexy story. And so sometimes it's been played up more than it needs to be.
Absolutely.
And go ahead.
Well, I was just going to cite the example of one of the most horrific Asian American crime video clips that went viral and was just all over the news, was the one in New York where the African-American guy, punched the woman, and then the people that were inside the glass doors closed the door on the whole, that was like all over the place. And so I understand how it could feed that perception, but I wanted to highlight your truth. That it is a misperception because it's less than 10%. Why aren't they showing more of the white Americans who are perpetrating, which is the majority actually in Northern California, if I understand it? Mm-hmm. It's white Americans that are.
That's right. So. It is overwhelmingly white perpetrators. And it's, I think it's really important. And what doesn't get uplifted enough is actually the allyship between the Black and the Asian community, and how important that solidarity is. When I think about the attention that is coming right now to the Asian community, where people, not just Asians, but mainstream society and media are finally saying what is happening to the Asian community is not okay, and we all stand in solidarity with you. I give direct credit to this moment, to the Black Lives Matter movement last year, where finally it seemed like our country woke up and said, this issue of anti-Blackness and the overcriminalization of Blacks, particularly young Black men, it's an American problem. This is something we all should care about in our society. And that woke up, I think, our country to saying when another group is being oppressed, it's not just their problem, it is all of our problems. Because the thing is, when the pandemic first started last year, there was a spike in Asian hate crimes and incidents then too, but no one was talking about it.
Yes.
We actually couldn't get any attention on the subject. Yes. But it was after the Black Lives Matter movement and really the progress that the Black community and our society was able to make to acknowledge anti-Blackness that has paved the way for what is now a recognition that there is racism in our Asian community that needs to be stopped, and that the violence needs to end.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I remember in June signing a change.org petition to try to get mainstream media to cover Asian American hate crimes. and it took a petition. Actually, unfortunately, it took the mass shooting in Atlanta to finally put us on the map. And then, thank goodness, these Stop AAPI people, have been tracking since the pandemic, since, the references to Kung flu and Chinese flu or Chinese virus, thanks to our former, that was, it's great, but it's sad that it took a mass shooting for that coverage to happen. Absolutely. So tell me what from your perspective, you're a lawyer, no lawyer jokes. And I think it's wonderful that you are doing what you're doing, because you're a nonprofit. You are helping Asian Americans who are going through some kind of legal battle with somebody. So talk to me about how Asian cultures have led us to this place of, being called a model minority. Why did it, as you were just speaking to the African-American community with Black Lives Matter, in essence was helpful to help raise the voices of Asian Americans against hate crimes. So what about our culture makes it so challenging?
Yeah, so when you look at first that term model minority, that was coined in the 1960s by a white author of an article whose point was Asian Americans are so successful, they're so hardworking, they do well in school, and they go on to be professionals and make lots of money. They are the model minority, which at first glance sounds very positive. Thank you very much for all of those compliments.
Yes.
But then it goes on to say, so because Asians are being so successful as a minority, what's wrong with all of you, other communities of color, and particularly Black communities? Why can't you pick yourself up by your bootstraps the way the Asian community has? And so that model minority myth has actually been used as a tool to keep Asians wedged with other communities of color, and in doing so, keep communities of color down. And it has also been used by saying that Asians are doing so well as a way to make our needs invisible. So many people have been saying recently, where is this coming from? Asians have never been targeted before. I can't believe this is happening. In fact, Asians have been targeted in this country for hundreds of years, going back to the Chinese and the Chinese Exclusion Act, and Japanese Americans with World War II, and South Asians and Muslims during 9/11, Vincent Chin in 1982. I mean, the incidents go on and on. We just don't know that history, and that model minority myth obscures it. It obscures that, and it obscures actually the true needs of our community, which what the reality is that amongst any racial group in this country, Asians actually have the highest disparity between the haves and the have-nots. Income level, educational attainment, you name it. We have the most differences. And that has to do with our immigration patterns, right? Some of us came to this country because America was looking for professionals. So Koreans, Filipinos, Indians, South Asians, they were brought in and recruited to be doctors and engineers. And that's why you have sort of an overrepresentation of those kinds of professions from those ethnicities. It's not because all Asians are good at math, but America selectively picked people who are good at math to come to this country. When you look at other ethnic groups like Vietnamese, Cambodians, Hmong, Lao, they were brought here as refugees after Civil War. it is a very different prospect coming to this country as a refugee with nothing but the shirt on your back and having come through the trauma of a civil war than it is to come here under a professional license. So, of course, we're going to have a lot of disparities, and of course, we're going to have a lot of needs. But the model minority myth, it obscures that. Yeah. And then, Dr. Marissa, when you talk about the cultural difference, there are some Eastern cultural values that for some groups, Asians feel that we don't talk about our dirty laundry to outsiders. And when something is unpleasant, you keep that silence. And that's why it's sometimes hard for Asian Americans to access things like counseling services or domestic violence services. I always had a really hard time with getting getting community members to come forward for those types of things, because there are some cultural values with certain Eastern cultures that say, you don't talk about that kind of stuff. You keep those things quiet. Those unpleasant things, you keep it down.
Absolutely. There's a Chinese and a Japanese saying, the nail that stands up is hammered down. And I'm a constant source of embarrassment to my family because I talk on camera a lot, and that's not okay as well. And just want to give a shout out to Diane Kwan, who says this is a really essential topic to be talking about. So thank you, Diana. And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering who I have on my Loving Room platform today, you are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And that is Connie Chung, not Chung, but Connie Chung Joe. People have taken a triple take on that. And we're talking about graduate school, people of color and people of color. So we're talking about how we can end racism by working together, by first talking about and putting the moose on the table about what isn't working, what perceptions are not real, what the news, which is a weapon of mass distraction, a term from my big brother Michael Bernard Beckwith, that has sort of led us to believe that it's a African American versus Asian American issue, which it is not. So when we're talking, and today is the the anniversary of the Watts riots, of the LA riots. I do know that when I do value and diversity work, one of the examples I use on why we get in trouble across cultures. Everybody wants respect. Everybody says do the golden rule. But when you define respect differently, you can get into conflict. And the example I use is a Korean store owner, in order to respect the customer, will take the change and put it on the counter instead of putting the change onto the person's hand. Now, that's respect from a Korean a cultural standpoint. But from an African American or Black American standpoint, if you don't put the change in my hand, the perception is that you don't respect me enough. What, you think I'm dirty? You put the change on the table instead of my hand. And so these are real cultural differences that are coming into conflict with a misinterpretation. So when we're talking about why can't we just get along, and talking about communication and respect across differences, we can all do a one step back and maybe adopt the platinum rule, which is instead of do unto others as you would have them do unto you, do unto others as they would like them to have done unto them, which is platinum, which is more expensive than gold. So that's my 8 cents worth on that. So the work that you're doing now, and what can we as Asian Americans do to better help end racism in working with other people of color?
Yeah. So first, we all need to shake this model minority myth ourselves. And there are still plenty of Asian Americans who like this idea of, I like to be associated with white people. I like to be seen as my culture being successful and we're smart. And so I'm going to do that. And we have to recognize, no, this is actually a tool that has kept our American structure that puts whites on top and everyone else on bottom, and it keeps that structure of white supremacy is what we call it. But you being second and then having other communities of color still means that you are put below. And we don't want to do that. What we want to do is all band together to try to flip that culture around so we are all equal. And so first, Asian Americans, don't buy into that model minority myth and recognize that power comes when we're all working together as people of color to say none of us should be oppressed. None of us should be targeted. As Asian Americans, if we want people to care about our needs and what's happening to us, we got to pay it forward. We got to show we care about other people when they're targeted and racism happens. You know, I've heard so many Asian Americans, you know, last year were saying, why don't people care what's happening to us? Why aren't people fighting and talking about anti-Asian violence? I agree, they should be caring. But then I also said, why aren't we all at Black Lives Matter movement and focusing on that, and also saying we're here for you because we think racism against any one of us is a racism against all of us. Yeah. So that is the kind of solidarity we need to show. We need to vocally say we support the Black community, we support Black Lives Matter movement, we support the Latinx community. This is a controversial one, Dr. Marissa, but I will say that the Asian American community is pretty split on the subject of affirmative action. Here in California, it's a lightning rod topic. And a lot of Asian Americans feel that if I support affirmative action, I'm bringing my community and Asian American communities down at the for the benefit of Black, Latinx, and other communities of color.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is actually in California. There was just a proposition last year to try to get it passed, and some of the most vocal opposition to it came from the Asian American community.
Wow.
Yeah, and I would say that first, I think a lot of Asian Americans didn't realize that actually that law and the affirmative action policies would help a lot of Asian Americans because it would require government to, when it's bidding with small businesses for subcontracts, to take into account race, including Asian Americans in small businesses, which would actually help a lot of Asian small business be more competitive for government bids than they've been before. Similarly, with public jobs in government, they'd be able to be more competitive. But most Asian Americans were just thinking, oh, well, for school, my kids aren't going to go to an Ivy League college or, well, in California, to UCLA or UC Berkeley, because that spot's going to be given to another kid of a different racial group. I just don't think that's the way we need to think about it. We need to think that if there are more kids of color and students of color in these public institutions, that's better for all of us. Yes. Then they can band together. They can learn about diversity. They can learn about why communities of color have been challenged and what we need to do to work together. So that's one of those examples where I think Asian Americans have sometimes fallen prey to that model minority myth. And I would challenge us to kind of look at that a little deeper.
Right. Very important point.
And if you would like to hear the rest of that very informative and very solution-oriented show, my interview with Connie Chung Joe is on my YouTube channel. And I'm almost at 250,000 views, so you'll help me out on that as well. And because it is the holidays, I am offering Asian Oprah giveaways every single day that I remember. So today's giveaway is a free download of my children's book, Mommy, What Are Feelings? It's a perfect book if you have any kids who love to draw, who love rhyming, who love to talk about the delicious taste of life. And as you can see, these are drawings from my daughters when they were 4 and 6 to help express feelings. And if you are with an organization, autism, or any group that has access to kids who want some materials to help them express their feelings, then please do contact my nonprofit, 8 Ways to Happiness, which helps kids, teens, and young adults who have temporarily forgotten their birthright to happiness. And speaking of which, you can help me a lot by, if you shop on Amazon, and I know you do, and you don't already have a nonprofit to designate, just shop through Smile Amazon and put 8 Ways to Happiness. And what happens is a little portion will go towards my 501c 8 Ways to Happiness. So in advance, thank you very much. And that is it for show number 581. Where has the time gone? I'm so grateful that I started the show May 1st, 2012, still going strong, got promoted to the morning show several months ago, have captured the number one 8 a.m. slot in the Inland Empire, and I am grateful first and foremost to all of you listeners who continue to support me. Also in social media, go to Doc Balance on Instagram, Dr. Marissa everywhere else. Pretty active on Facebook, LinkedIn, a little bit on Twitter, but you can find me just about anywhere. And thank you for your continued support. Thanks to all the guys at the station. You know who you are. Oh, and before I forget, I'm so delighted that I just got a confirmation. Some of you know that I had Corey Feldman and Courtney, his beautiful wife, on my show several years back, and they've got something coming out, and they would love to come to my studio to introduce it to you. So this is Dr. Marissa reporting live from my living room during the pandemic, reminding you that it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. And have the best day ever.